What it do, y'all, and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm very excited to bring you guys another 3 looks 1 palette featuring the Glaminatrix Glamorous palette. Now this was a palette that I received last year because I purchased it last year, but unfortunately I just did not have the time to showcase it, and I told you all this was definitely going to be my first 3 looks. So I hope you guys are excited to see and hear the information that I have to give to you guys about this particular palette, the brand formulation, the formulation in this palette, all of that stuff. So in case you are interested in hearing more about this particular palette, let's just get into it. Okay guys, so as per usual, I am going to have a breakdown all throughout this particular video. In the very beginning, in just a little while, I'll be talking about the product details. Then I'll be going to swatches and comparisons. Then I'll be going to the 3 looks that I was able to create with this palette. And lastly, I will be giving you guys my review. As always, there will be timestamps and you can feel free to jump around to whatever section you particularly care to hear. But with that said, I did want to just showcase the cardboard packaging that the actual palette comes in. It does come in a very basic packaging with like a glossy finish, and it says Glaminatrix Cosmetics and the fact that this is the Glamorous palette. Nothing crazy about this palette. There's also no information on the back. Then we get into the actual palette, and they continue to stick with this like faux leather type packaging. Sometimes it's more matte, sometimes it's a little bit shinier. This time it's a little bit shinier. Like I said, it says Glamorous. Like I said, it says Glaminatrix Cosmetics, Glamorous palette there. And then on the top spine, it just says that it's Glaminatrix Cosmetics. You do, of course, get a nice size mirror. I just never take off the covering. And then we have the eyeshadows inside. So as you can see, it is quite bright and colorful. And I just want to talk to you guys about the descriptions that the brand has for the particular shadows in here. They say that there are 4 duochrome shadows, 1 high impact shimmer, and 7 mattes. Now, I definitely agree with the mattes. I definitely see that there are 7 mattes in this palette. Very pretty. As for the 4 duochromes, from my perspective, those aren't duochromes, and you guys will see throughout the video. These to me are a lot more like a metallic with a shimmer in them. So that's what I get, but I still do like to give my palettes a little bit more love and attention before I do a final review, and I will continue to kind of test out to see what's going on, and maybe I see something different. But I do have one of those kind of duochromes on my lid right now, and I truly only see 1 shade with just a glittery shimmery finish running throughout. Then we have the shade Belle, which they indicate is a high impact shimmer. From my perspective, that's actually a multi-chrome. I saw multiple different shadow colors in them. In pan, I see a brown. You also can see a green, and I've also seen like more of a purpley shade as well. So that's just my perspective, and I wanted to give you guys that perspective now because I'm referring to them in what I see all throughout the video. So just keep that in mind. I also do want to indicate that I'm on the website right now, and unfortunately this product is not sold as a palette right now. It is only sold as singles, and it currently is sold out. In the listing of it just being singles, it is listed as $57.22 USD. I do believe in USD I paid somewhere in the $65 range for this particular palette with all of the bells and whistles. I will have all of that information flowing across the screen if I am right or wrong. I did want to also highlight 2 ingredients that are in this formula, which is mica and talc. So for those who are sensitive or just can't use those types of products that have those 2 ingredients, I do want to let you guys know that. The last thing that I can really talk about with this particular palette is that unfortunately on the website, they no longer list the amount of product that is in this palette. So I can't really give you guys that information. That said, I do believe it is very similar to the Nocturnal palette, and basically on that listing, they indicate that those pans are 26mm pans, so they hold about 1.5 to 2 grams of product per pan. And so I feel like that is very equivalent to this palette. So that's all the information that I can actually give to you guys right now. And also, while I'm at it, if you are interested, the Nocturnal palette is listed as $53.64 USD, and that's with the palette. So take all of that into consideration when you're garnering yourself on what I paid and what maybe you would pay if they release this with the actual packaging again. So that's it. That's all I have for this part of the video. Let's just jump into the swatches, the tutorials, and the review. Again, but to finally get this last clip done so I can upload this content for you all. So this is the Glamorous Cosmetics. This is the Glaminatrix Cosmetics Glamorous palette. As I showed you guys before, a very simple kind of outside packaging, and of course nothing on the back. Then we have the actual palette. As I showed before, they're really sticking with this kind of faux-ish leather look, and this very sleek, slender packaging with the name just being embossed on the top. You do, of course, get a mirror. I never take that covering off. And then this is the eyeshadow palette. So as you can see, they're quite bright, colorful shades being presented in this particular palette. And in just a little bit, we will be getting to the tutorials, and I will be showing you guys not only some very colorful eye looks, but also as kind of neutral as I was able to accomplish with just this eyeshadow palette. Of course, you can use other shadows from your collection and make this palette a lot more neutral, but with just sticking with this eyeshadow palette, there was only one kind of neutral arrangement that I was able to think of. But as always, what I like to do at this point is to just full on swatch this palette out. I've already given you guys all of the information about the actual palette. I just want to go ahead and swatch these on my skin tone. In this part of the video, I'm going to do one swipe swatches just so that you guys can see the color on my skin. If I feel I need to build it up so you can literally see the color on my skin, then I will. Otherwise, the pigmentation, the blendability, all of that you'll be seeing when I do the tutorials. So yeah, let me just speed this up. I do like to put music in the background and speed this section up. So yeah, just sit back and enjoy. So really quickly, I forgot to mention two things. One, of course, I only have natural lighting in front of me, and then I have the artificial lighting of the room headlamp or headlight on in this room. And then also these shadows could potentially stain. As you can see on my fingers, I do have a bit of staining. Granted, I haven't wiped these particular shades off, but let me show you. When I wipe them off, I do still have slight staining. Now, I did not see this on my eyes, but as you can see, I'm of a darker complexion. So it takes quite a bit for my eyes to personally be stained. That said, it also does matter what type of base you're using for your eyeshadow. So if you're just using basic concealer or honestly nothing at all, you can see more staining, if not staining, period, because of that fact. I tend to use an eyeshadow primer, so its real goal is to help with the eyeshadows to stick, but I also find that it actually helps with staining as well. So do keep those two elements in mind. I never mentioned them just because it was never something that I saw, but now that I'm doing my swatches, I do see slight staining on my fingers, and I just wanted to let you guys know. So These are the swatches of this particular palette. As always, what I like to do is go through the collection that I have from this brand and to see if there's any shadows that look very similar, and if they are, I swatch them out. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to clean off my arm and we're going to get to some swatching. Alrighty, so as you can see, I have not only the Glamorous palette, but I also have the Nearly Neutral palette here. Now, clearly this one is really focusing on more neutral tones, and this one is focusing on more colorful tones, but I still wanted to compare the two and just to see if there was anything that looks similar. Looking at the actual pans straight on, I don't see anything similar. Let me look in the camera. So in the camera, I feel like Generous and Naked Eye look similar. So let's go ahead and swatch those two. This is Generous and this is Naked Eye. And as you can see, they have two different bases. Generous is a lighter, cooler base, and Naked Eye is definitely more bronzy, warmer base. But they're both beautiful shades nonetheless. So definitely not similar, although in that angle they are. But I think this is the more true angle. Once again, natural light in front of me and my overhead light is on top of me. So yeah, let's just go ahead and go to the next two palettes. So now I want to compare the Glamorous palette and the Silent Night palette. The Silent Night palette was limited edition, and to my knowledge, the shadows nor the actual palette are available. So first, let's go ahead and swatch Tempting and Stalking. These are the only two shadows that look similar, and they honestly might be. They are it's a very slight difference. Stalking, which is from the Glamorous palette, is slightly darker than Tempting. But if you don't have the Glamorous palette, and let's say this was the one shade you really wanted from the palette, I think you could buy the Glamorous palette and still get the same effect, because once you put it on your eye, this slight of a difference, you're really not going to see it. So yeah, those are those two shadows. I don't see anything else that looks similar between the two palettes, so we're just going to keep going. So now this is the last comparison that I have, which is quite crazy because I've really enjoyed this brand, but I haven't really picked up as many palettes as they've actually launched. Regardless though, this one once again is still the Glamorous palette, and down here is the what is the name of this one? This is the Nocturnal palette. Now, looking at them from my point of view, I don't see anything similar at all. Even though they are both beautiful, you can clearly see the different formula in the shimmer. Like I said, this one was just so volatile and loosely pressed, whereas these are nice and they both came to the same location. So I know the transit was pretty much similar, but let's look in the viewfinder, and looking from that aspect as well, I still don't see anything that really looks similar. So we're gonna call it done. So now that's all I have to say when it comes to the swatches. I hope they were helpful. It was definitely nice to see that there are very few shades that are similar from my collection. I do have the one palette coming to me. I can't remember the name. And once that comes to me, I will definitely be doing another 3 Looks 1 palette and comparisons for you all. But it's very nice to see a brand that doesn't really regurgitate very similar shades, even though they may look similar to the naked eye. Once you get them into your collection and you see them and you're ready to swatch them, you can see truly how different they are. And for that, I truly appreciate the brand. But yeah, that's all I have for this section of the video. Let's just go ahead and get into the tutorials. Hey guys, so as you can see, I'm already ready to do my first look of this 3 Looks 1 palette. Very, very excited. So let's just go ahead and dive on in. Today, I'm going to go ahead and start off with my About Face primer. I have, as you guys know, tried this formula many times, and this formula with this primer many times. And this is a primer that works with this formulation. And since it is my favorite primer, we're just going to go ahead and start this testing out with this particular primer. Now, I don't know if you can see how intrinsic the look originally was, so I'm just going to kind of walk you guys through the steps that I took and we'll go from there. So first I took an angled brush from Sigma Beauty and I went into the shade Curls. What I'm going to be doing is creating an like angular look with this brush and that eyeshadow. So what I'm going to do is start off with this outer edge, and I like to just kind of start by creating that outer line and then kind of slowly creating this area. Now, when I did this, I made sure to relax my lid because I do have hooded eyes. And I did want to ensure that this color is seen even when my eye is closed. And that's pretty much what I did. I did not bring this kind of liner-ish technique all the way in. It really was kind of trying to focus it out. Then what I began to do is kind of slightly blend it with this angled brush. It doesn't really work, but I just wanted to kind of start moving that pigment just because I didn't want it to be too sedentary when I go in with the next shade. So it's looking like that, not too great. Not too bad either. Then I'm going to take a rougher 14 and I'm going to go into the shade Package. And I'm just going to blend the outer perimeter of this color. And as you can hopefully see, it is starting to kind of slowly build and blend. If you find that you want even more work on that line part, I got a pencil brush. It's a thicker pencil brush. This one happens to be from BK Beauty. It is their 207. And I just worked that product in between with what is on the brush. I never really took any extra product. It was just whatever the brush picked up from what I laid down. And so you can see hopefully that line isn't as defined, even though you can still see where I built the look. But yeah, that's kind of where it went. Then I'm just going to do the exact same thing on my lower lash lines. One key thing is to try to make sure that your lines connect. It'll just look better in the long run. Okay. And so I kind of messed up, but I kind of fixed it at the same time. At this point, I'm going back into Curls and I'm kind of blending this just a little bit. And then that's kind of when I realized I didn't like that. So I ended up taking this exact same brush and going into Regal. And in Regal, I'm using the same brush, which is the Blend Bunny B2. And I'm just going to kind of pack it over that dark Curls color and just kind of fill it in. I'm not going to go all the way to the front, but I do want to kind of make that impactful. And then what I'm going to do to make sure that there's a difference is I'm actually going to go back into that angled brush and sort of kind of redefine the structure that I had before. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing that I ever do. Nothing that I ever do is perfect, but that was just kind of my thought process. And I overall like what the look came out with this kind of technique. Okay, so now we have these three purples blending, looking somewhat cohesive and together. Next, I'm going to go into the shade Dreamy. And I'm going to take my finger and just apply it. As always, I prefer to apply my shimmers with my finger. And this formula so far is feeling like the good Glaminatrix formula. It's blendable, it's pigmented, but it's not but it's not overly flaky or crumbly. We're almost done with this look. Then I'm gonna take a brush and I'm gonna go into the shade Twinkle. And I am just going to apply this in my inner corner. Okay, so we are now done with all of the shadow. What we have left is just a little technique. So I'm gonna take my NYX Epic liner and just create my wing liner. As you can see, I don't know if you can see, I do have a wing liner, and I also wanted to really try the like cat eye technique. So I applied that on my line as well. I also put on lashes. These are the Ardell 371. I also put my black liner from LA Girl in my waterline and my tight line. So I'm gonna do all three of those things very, very quickly, and then I will come back to show you guys the finished look. Alrighty guys, so this is the finished look. As always, y'all, if there's anything on my face other than the eyes that you would like to know what is on there, check out down below. It will be down there. It will also be linked and listed. Like I said, I'm trying to do that in this year for all of my descriptions. So let's see how we do in my first one. But with that said, this is it. This is the first look. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let's get to look number 2. Hey guys, so I'm here to give you guys look number 2 with the Glamorous palette. And I'm just gonna go ahead and start off by priming my eye. Today I decided let's just go ahead and use the Natasha Denona eyeshadow base. I do know that this is a really good base as well. The only reason I am not using this as frequently as before is because it's quite wet and it takes a little while for it to dry down. I also feel like I have to blend it out with the brush, and sometimes that can be annoying, but today I really wanted to test this particular formula out even further with this eyeshadow primer. So as you can see, I've already done one eye, so we're just gonna replicate that look. And first what I did is I took the shade Tempting, which is this red tone, and this BK Beauty A504. This is from their Angie Hot and Flashy collaboration. And what I ended up doing was just kind of really pressing this particular shade into this primer and kind of creating a very simple arc around my eye so that once my eye closes, you can still see the shade. With the same brush, I'm just going to slightly begin to blend this out. There is quite a bit of product on the brush just because of how pigmented this actual formula is. So that is why you don't see the shade actually starting to fade right now, but it is all good. We are going to work around that. And to work around that, I'm going to take a fluffier brush in that same brush set, which is the A503. And I'm going to go into the slightly more purple tone shade, which is called Sweetly. And I'm just going to dab very lightly and actually kind of tap off the excess. And we are just going to attempt to blend the outer edge of this shade. And so because I did that, there is a slighter like diffused look that otherwise I would have not received if I was sticking with that particular shade and that particular brush. And I'm just gonna replicate everything, of course, on my lower lash line. So now I'm liking the diffused look, but as you guys know, I love depth, I love dimension in my looks. So what I'm gonna do is go into the shade Curls, which is like a dark, cool tone purple, and Tempting again. And I'm gonna mainly use Curls with just like a splash of Tempting just to help it kind of blend in a little bit better with this overall look. And I'm just gonna deepen out that outer corner as well as my lower lash line. This is just a really nice shade that I'm finding is really working with all of the other colors in this particular palette, regardless of kind of what I really wanted this to look like. Because I'm pretty sure I used the more purple tones in yesterday's look, or the first look, because it wasn't yesterday, but You guys get what I'm saying? And I'm just going to kind of slightly bring this in. I don't want to bring this in too much, and I also don't want too much emphasis on that. If for whatever reason you feel like it's not blended well, just go ahead and go back into that second brush, the bigger brush, and just kind of fluff around the out edges. So there's that for the matte look shadows. I don't feel like I need to do anything else. I really like the slight dimension, the slight depth. It's not overly, and of course, if you want even more, just feel free to pack on more pigment and maybe don't blend as much as I did. So just to show you guys, it can really be deepened up to whatever capacity you desire. Now I'm going to take my finger. I completely thought that Belle was a neutral shimmer. It is definitely a multi-chrome, which I did not realize until I actually put my hand in the shadow. So fun for me. I love when I don't swatch until after I've done all of my looks, and then I realize the diverse aspects of each shadow. And I just use my finger because that's my preferred method when it comes to applying shimmer shadows. Feel free to use whatever your method is. And we're just going to make sure that it applies nice and evenly and exactly where I wish it to. And then I'm going to take a pencil brush. This one happens to be from Sonia G, and this is her detail pencil brush. And I'm just going to go into Generous, which is an actual true kind of neutral shimmer. And this is going to be my inner corner. It is quite light for my skin tone, so I doubt I'd actually ever use this as a lid shade, but I do like it as it brings quite a bit of brightness back into that inner corner. And just make sure to really blend this on the lid and all of that stuff. So that's pretty much that. The only other thing that I did to kind of finalize this eye look is to add my liner. I did use my LA Girl black liner. It's just the pencil, just this very basic normal pencil. I did use my Rare Beauty mascara, and I do have on the Juvia's Place Egypt XL lashes. I've been really enjoying these lately. So I'm going to do all of that really quickly, and then I will come back to show you guys my second finished look. Alrighty guys, so this is the finished look. Alrighty guys, so this is the second finished look for my Glamorous 3 Looks 1 palette. I think tomorrow what I want to try to do is come out with something that's a little bit more neutral. I don't know how it's going to go, but I would love to kind of try to figure that out and see if I can make it work. So cross your fingers. But with that said, yeah, let's just go ahead and get into look number 3. Hey guys, so I want to go ahead and jump on and do my third look with you all. I told you all that I was going to try to make this as kind of neutral as possible, and I think I was able to accomplish it for this particular palette. Although it's not like a neutral brown, obviously there are absolutely no browns in this palette, but I feel like I was able to create as neutral as possible of a look, which will play in perfectly because I'm actually going out with some friends, and I actually am wearing a kind of burgundy-esque vibe. Hopefully we'll see how it kind of all comes together, but this is the top that I think I'm going to be wearing. Anyways, I'm going to be using that same big fluffy brush I used the last time, which is the A503, and I'm going to go into the shade Curls. And my big kind of goal with this shadow is to just apply very little amount and really just blend it out to it so it looks a little bit effortless. Now I will say I have like a weird like pimple or something on this eye, so there may be some difficulty blending here, but I'm hopeful that it won't be, and it's close enough to my brow bone that I don't think it will get in the way of my shadow. But really what I'm doing, like I said, is just blending out what product I picked up originally and just trying to kind of make it blend into my skin tone as easily as possible. And with as little as I actually picked up, you will see that it's purple, but it won't be as stark as maybe it would have been before had I used like a more condensed or tight and defined brush. So just working on that. I also just went ahead and did my lower lash line really quickly. And as you can see, it's purple, but it's not overly, you know, purple, which is exactly what I thought I could get with this palette. Then what I'm going to do is go into Generous. I believe I used it once in my inner corner before, but I never used it as a lid shadow, and I wanted to. So this is like the only kind of somewhat actual neutral shadow in this whole palette, and it's like a champagne with what I would say is like a bronze base to it. It's not a straight up champagne. I think it has a little bit of bronze in it based on what it looked like on my finger. Then what I'm going to do is to pick up another brush. This one happens to be from Sonia G. This is her detail brush, and I am literally going to mix a little bit of Belle and that Generous shade in my inner corner. I felt like Belle was just a little bit too like stark out there, loud and in charge. But when I put some of Generous on top, you get that brightness and you get that little pop of color as well. Still bringing it a little bit different than what's on my lid. I like to have a little bit of difference between my inner corner and my lid shade. That's pretty much the look. The only things I'm going to do is do my liner. I did actually do a legit liner today. This is just my NYX Epic liner. I did use the one in black. I didn't want to use brown. I felt like brown wasn't going to cut what I wanted today. And then I used my LA Girl black pencil liner, and then I used my Rare Beauty mascara. I think this is the last time I'm going to use her. I think she needs to go. But anyways, let me do all of that, finish it up, and then we will come back to talk about this palette. Alrighty guys, so this is the finished look. Alrighty guys, so like I said, today's finished look is done, and I used very minimal shadows, as I kind of tend to like to do. I like to do like 3 to 4 shadow looks really in like a lot of times. So this is not my first time using this brand's formulation. You guys will have seen that a little bit in the beginning of this video. I would have shown you guys swatches, comparisons, all of that jazz when it comes to this brand's palettes that I have, formulations, all of that. For me, I think that once again, they have really found their groove. Some of these newer indie brands, you can see they make maybe a misstep here or there in formulation or palettes or whatever have you. I feel like they're continuing to keep that firm footing from their last palette, which was the Nearly Natural palette. Now for me, this is quite bright for me lately. I haven't been wearing a lot of bright eyeshadow looks, but I have really had a lot of fun playing with this color scheme, and I think this is quite an easy color scheme for anybody who is maybe not comfortable wearing bright eyeshadow or even color at all. You can really easily use the quads as they're formulated here, or just stick with like colors. So if you stick with like the purples, the burgundies, the greens, you can really come out with a solid eyeshadow look here with this particular palette. Formula wise, I've never had a problem with their mattes, and I still to this day, specifically with this palette, don't find that I have a problem with the mattes. I still find that the mattes are quite pigmented, blendable, saturated, opaque, nice and thick. I really do like them. As for the shimmers, I find that there are 2 different formulas, mainly because they have these like shimmer formula that's more of a metallic with like glitter infused with it, and then they have the one multi-chrome. Now correct me if I'm wrong, from my recollection right now, I haven't done the swatch portion of the video. I do believe this is the first multi-chrome that they have actually put in a palette. I may be wrong because I might be forgetting, like I think maybe in their Christmas palette last year they may have had a multi-chrome. But either way, this is more of a smooth kind of basic metallic finish, but it is quite literally a multi-chrome. And then the other shimmer shadows in this palette have that like shimmer glitter formulation infused with the metallic finish. So do keep that in mind. Overall, I would recommend this palette if you're interested. I know that the brand is not cheap, but do remember that this is an international brand for a lot of people, and it is also an independently owned brand. So this brand is literally creating the products themselves, and I think that they have a solid product here. I think that not only is the packaging nice, but also the actual individual shades. I love the idea that you can switch around the shadows and the color scheme if you choose to, and you can kind of make it your own a little bit more. Especially if you have quite a few of their palettes, you can really have some fun there. And I've just been really enjoying this brand. So definitely let me know how you guys feel about this particular palette, the brand overall. Have you tried the brand? Are you interested in trying the brand now? Let your girl know. I do believe there's one or two people I know out there in the world that actually have a code with this brand. And if I can find the code, maybe I'll dig through my emails. I will put that down below, and I will link the YouTuber that is associated with the code, just so that you guys can get some money off in the event that you're interested in trying the brand, but that price is just a little bit out of your price range. But I do know that a lot of you guys are currently on no buys or low buys, so really do like take your time, definitely do what you need to do. And yeah, I think that's all I have for you guys. If there's any questions, concerns, any of that, just shout them out down below. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye guys.